Welcome to Bwtm Sports Gaming. This is going to be a different show. It's going to have a feel like yesteryear, back in the day when it was Bayloric TV. And in some ways, I do feel I need to do that because we're going on a bit of a historic trip, really. In more than one way, I will be giving you some generally good news I want to share. I don't usually share good personal news, but I do want to share some personal news with you all. And I want to share some just general good news I want to share with you. So I will definitely want to talk about Anthony Joshua and his partnership with my dear friend Derrick James. So quite a bit to share, quite a lot to talk about. So instead of me waffling on, let's get the show started, shall we? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Bwtm Sports Gaming. So on the agenda today on this show, thank you for those who subscribe to the channel. Thank you for those who've been long-time supporters. Good news for you today. So as you may or may not know, a number of years I've been coaching cricket. I will be talking Anthony Joshua and Derrick James, but please bear with me. There is a story to this to be told. I've been coaching cricket for many years now. A little picture of me here. Yeah, this was me in 2013 when I was working with the West Indies Cricket Board, coaching in the West Indies. My parents are from Trinidad and Tobago, and I was in Grenada at the time where my grandmother was. And I was working 2012 to about 2013-ish, working with the West Indies women, the Grenadian women, working with the boys and the men, and working with the national side, which also consists of my cousin Nelon Pascal, was playing at the time, was still playing T20 cricket. So yeah, I'm telling you this story for a reason. Anyone who knows my story, again, this is in 2013, anyone who knows my story knows that one of the biggest challenges I faced since 2006 was that I kept talking about leveling up in cricket. Once you do your level 2, it's fine. When you go and do your level 3, when you want to do your level 3, now you have to ask somebody, and somebody's got to be in your favor to do the level 3. It doesn't matter if you're good enough for what you do. It's political. It's who knows who and who knows what, and whether your face fits, quite literally. And I've spoken about a number of times, and now it's all coming out in the wash. In 2021, 22, we started hearing about all the racism within cricket within the UK. Now, look, don't get me wrong. I've had a lot of opportunities in the UK, but these are opportunities I've had to work for because I'm damn good at what I do, not because anybody's given me any handouts. And probably that's the best way to have it. I was fortunate to be a head coach working at Middlesex. I was fortunate to coach in quite a few places because I was good enough to be able to handle the pressure and produce the goods. It's been great. I was able to go to Australia. And by the way, not just coaching, but winning trophies in England, in Australia, in the Caribbean, in Ireland. And more recently, now I'm out here in Nigeria. So let me tell you, since I've been out, I left in Nigeria in February 2021. Okay. And since then, I went on to become the state coach, which is just below the national coach. And bearing in mind that Nigeria's got a population of over 200 million plus. And in my area alone where I live, Ikorodu is a million plus people. So think about it. So Ikorodu doesn't know much about cricket. I've come in and started coaching cricket while being the state coach. So, you know, June state coach, we've won some trophies as well. Brought some new players in from Ikorodu. There's a picture here. Iconic picture. Iconic picture because, see this picture here? This picture is going to be in the front cover of my book that's coming out. And the inspiration for the book is for the young people in Nigeria. I'm going to talk a lot more about Africa later, but this is like a picture of the coaching. And I was almost on my way back to the UK because I was getting disillusioned with, you know, the fact that I wanted to do great things for the community, but budgeting and it got to the point where my own finances were being drained, and I wasn't getting the support that was necessary to get the job done, to be effective what I was doing. Although I had all these young people around, so I had to almost wrap everything up. And thank God I was contacted by some very, 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 let's say, influential people high up. And they said, hey, you know what? We're seeing what you're doing in the community. Can you do some more? What would you do if you had the opportunity to coach in Ikorodu and do what you want to do and run a program? And so I did. Run this program. Here we are. I run this program here. Reduce crime, increase in participation. Over 6 days, the young people were brought together that I'd been coaching since March. Now, bear in mind, those young people now, 20 of them went and played in the CCC League. In October, there was a press conference. And at that press conference, the big boss of cricket, which was Mr. William Glenwright, who was the global development officer for cricket. He would have been like the Sepp Blatter of FIFA. He met me and he met the players as well. And he was inspired at the fact of seeing these young people all wanting to play cricket. Two of those young people who've been playing cricket since March last year. Now, there's a 13-year-old who's one of the leading wicket takers in a men's league. Yeah, this league is the best league in West Africa. Bearing in mind the other league that's better than that would be South Africa. And you know how South Africa is so dedicated to their cricket. So Nigeria are doing well for themselves, and these young people taking part in it it's been a journey. But now, obviously now in Ikorodu, this is what I'm looking to see. Actions, pictures. There we go. These are just a group of my cricketers just here in Ikorodu. A bunch of girls and guys are part of this, which is really exciting, great, and I'm really happy about it. Delighted. So yeah, I just want to share this to you. And this is the time and the energy I've put into, and this time coaching. Give me a second. Hold on. Sorry. Yeah, so this is what I've done. So this program is here. A lot of these young people now are taking part. The girls now running the girls cricket as well. So it's boys and girls. I've got about, God, there's so many kids. The average when I'm going to school, I'm looking at maybe 2,000 to 3,000. And schools are very different here in Nigeria. Let me give you an example. In a junior school, when you think junior or primary, junior school, you think stuff right. By 12 and 13, 12, they're out. They're going to secondary school. Not here. You could have got kids at junior school that are 15, 16, 17, 18 because they started school late. So it's a bit different. The setup. But anyway, I just want to show you this. This is a picture of just one of the many pictures I have. This program was run in December, and I'm going to be uploading all these videos, these pictures and videos on my Lagos Cricket Academy page. Please look at that. And this is the stuff I've been doing off camera. But I just want to show you pictures of this. So while all this has been going on, the dream to do level 3 has been on my mind since 2006, ever since I got my level 2. But there was either one excuse or the other given to me why I couldn't get there. Yet I'm producing players that are playing for the counties, Surrey, Sussex, Surrey, Kent, Middlesex, still not getting opportunities. Well, would you believe today, 2023, I have now been accepted and selected to be the next batch of 50 coaches to do their level 3. There are four levels in cricket of coaching. 4 is master coach, and there are very few master coaches in cricket. So I would be doing my level 3 at the end of this month. So yeah, that's great. That means basically I could coach internationally any team in the world with a level 3, and that opens the gateways to many other things. So through the many challenges, and I've been coaching now 25 years, there is light at the end of the tunnel if you believe in it, believe in what you do. And I'm just saying this because there are going to be people along the way that can tell you, "Oh, get a better job, get a job, do what they do." You see them unhappy with their lives, but get a job. Get a real job. Don't do what you're doing. Get a real job. I had my parents tell me that. I've told friends, I've had girlfriends tell me that. And if I'd listen to them, I look at all of them now and I look at where I am now, I couldn't be more happier because I fought for something that I believed in. And the reason why I'm saying this is because often I do these shows, I'm talking about other people's lives and other people's careers and slamming this person and criticizing this person. So it just kind of brings a bit more reality as to what I'm doing behind the scenes. So yeah, there's that. On top of that, when I came to Nigeria, all used to say to me like, oh yeah, why don't you work for Sky? Why don't you work for BT? You do really well. I'm in Nigerian. When I first started out here, my second passion was obviously media, Bwtm Sports, all the rest of it. And I met Simeon Uru, and he came across the field. I was coaching for Lagos State at the time. I'll still get my paper sorted immigration-wise. I was like, who's this guy coming over? He's immigration. I didn't know who it was. I was really panicking at the time. Oh, my papers would get straight at the time, but I still was a bit, because I wasn't fully in the country yet. I mean, I was in the country and I got my paperwork. It was fine at the time, but, to stay and stuff, you're still paranoid. Are you going to get the rest of your stay? I got my full stay. I got my green card, blah, 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 all the rest of it. Anyway, so Simeon comes over. He says to me, oh, who's the guy that talks about cricket here? And at the time, I was just a coach, just, volunteering. And I went and told my chairman about it. They weren't too interested in it at the time. And also I was following the boxing over there. I love my boxing, following the boxing over there. I did a boxing show live from Lagos with some very good friends, top boxers from over in Nigeria. Did a Lagos show, which I did a live show on Bwtm Sports, if you remember that as well. Some of you can hear you saying, yeah, I remember that. So anyway, so I was on it as Lagos State head coach at the time, and I'd come on the show and talked about a little bit about boxing, a little bit about cricket, a little bit about football. And I really loved it. I'd also be on the other national television station as well, which was Silverbird. But I really loved being on TNT. I got a long time to express myself and talk about sport and share my views. And TNT has grown and has grown with myself. And now in 2023, I'm now co-host on one of the biggest sports channels in Nigeria. And then, that's just testament to, if you believe in something, stick at it. Just believe in yourself and keep going. So now we have Level 3 starting at the end of the year, co-host for Tiwa Tiwa, which is also live streaming every Friday, 10 a.m. in the morning till 10 a.m. in the morning. It's 9 a.m. UK time. You can watch Tiwa Tiwa anytime, or on on the internet. You can watch them as well. It's TNT TV 24, so you can watch the best Nigerian TV. You can watch movies. All sorts of things you can watch, but you can watch Sports Spectacular, of course, will be on this Friday, and I also do broadcast it live via Bwtm Sports, so you can watch that as well, and you can chill out with that. So yeah, so let's see what people say. Salute, look at that handsome devil. Gayle, how are you? Ingram, happy 23. My lord, it's been too long. Glad to catch you live today while working here in California. Bravo to you for all the good work you're doing. Oh, Gayle, listen, all I can say is apologize to you. Like Facebook, don't ask me why. I was in Facebook jail for 8 months. Pardon my French, I pissed a lot of people off. They thought I just blocked them or stuff. I didn't. I was literally in Facebook jail. And no matter how many accounts I tried to reopen, got shut down. Don't ask me why it happened. It happened. But now I've just got back on Facebook, so I will definitely add you, and we've got to be talking. Immigration from the UK to Nigeria hardly happens. It's usually the other way around, isn't it? Yes, it is. It is. Hold on a second. I'll get all the distractions tonight. Hold on. Even doing live shows, there's this stress. But yeah, anyway, back on it. So yeah, it's like no, the immigration thing, the immigration matter was really a case of I came over here and you've got a certain amount of time you can stay here. Then I got a special immigration status, and I'm okay. I'm cool now. I'm here for the next 5 years at least. So yeah. I just want to do things the right way, because once you start, people, especially in media, imagine you're in media and you're doing all this work and you're getting paid for it, and your immigration status is is not the way it should be. In Nigeria, they'll find you, trust me. Because what? Facebook jail, it was quite harsh. Yeah, so I got booted out of a lot of groups and stuff. So I'm just rebuilding now. But yeah, so this is what's been going on here. Right, now, let us talk now about the other stuff. So I just want to give you a little background as to what's been going on. I want to give a massive shout out to one brother. His name is Leif Gramerson. Leif, I love this brother so much. I've never met him in person. I've met him. I've done telephone call after telephone call, of WhatsApp message. Never seen the guy face to face. Never did a video call with a man. But let me tell you something. In all my struggles, in all my times here, and I had some really tough times here out in Nigeria, this brother was there by my side and so damn supportive. And I'll tell you, I'm so thankful and grateful. I talk about this because there are still some really good people in the world. And there are a lot of people in the world that I thought that while I was out here, I'd better call upon. Yeah, all took the good stuff. But when it came down to the support I needed, couldn't get it. But anyway, I'm thankful and grateful. And this is where we are today. So now I want to go on to connecting to Nigeria. Of course, you know what's coming here. Anthony Joshua. And I want to give a message of hope to Anthony Joshua that, you know, it's not hypocritical, because I've been one of his biggest fans and critics at the same time. But I believe everyone's got their time to actually shine. And I believe that even now, because, I mean, this is great news. Let's move straight on. This is great news, this combination. And I know Gayle will be listening very carefully to this. Derrick James and Anthony Joshua. I spoke to Derrick briefly. I did left him a voice message on, and I wished him a happy new year. And he said to me, "Listen, thank you, England, for all the years of support." And I've support. Listen, from day dot, I've seen Derrick James. I've loved Derrick James as a trainer, as a man, because when coaches meet coaches, no matter whether you're football, cricket, tennis, boxing, whatever, you sit down, you start picking a mind of a man who I think is great. I've listened to I've met a lot of trainers. I've met a lot of boxing trainers, as you know here. And I think that Derrick James is a great trainer. A great trainer. An old head on young shoulders. I've always said that. I've always thought that of Derrick James. And when he said that he had a passion to train Deontay Wilder, and it was after Wilder beat Ortiz the first time, he said he wanted to remodel Wilder. When he said that to me exclusively on Bwtm Sports, an interview. And that's why when I do interviews, it's not just about, I'm interviewing Derrick James. I'm listening to what that man is saying. So later on in time, we can always go back and visit it. He said he wanted to train Deontay Wilder and remodel him. So he had an idea what he wanted to do with Wilder. And of course, Malik Scott came in, and that was just the end of that, because I could hear the disappointment in his voice. Oh, he's a Malik Scott. Not a disrespectful thing, but it sounded disappointed. And now who walks through his door? AJ, Anthony Joshua, with a lot of baggage. No disrespect to Joshua, a lot of baggage. And he'll have to cut that baggage off if he's going to be a success. And I'm sure Derrick James will talk to him. Derrick James is a no-nonsense trainer. He's not going to deal with the nonsense. And I mean, even up to this year, nonsense from the promoter, still talking rubbish. I don't know who his PR is, but he needs to sack his PR. You talk about rebuilding a man's career, yeah? After you've more or less been the reason why the man is where he is today, you talk about rebuilding it. And this is part 2 of this conversation, because Hearn has got one face that says we're going to rebuild Anthony Joshua, but in the same mouth and same breath, he's talking about when he was in the dressing room for the first Usyk fight, Joshua was hitting the pads and looking at notes before he was going out to fight Usyk for the first fight. Now, why the hell would you come out with crap like that? That's the first time he fought Usyk. Why the hell would you come out with nonsense like that? That man's mouth needs to be sellotaped, because he's doing Joshua no favors. I'm sorry, I'm speaking out. A lot of these people need to be cut from Joshua. Now, I said to you all that I heard stories on the grapevine that Joshua was going to be living in Dallas, Texas, that he was going to be, he had an apartment set up out there before it was confirmed by Derrick James. So I was not surprised that Derrick would be confirmed as trainer. But he's going to have to cut a lot of the nonsense out. And I've said this before he joined, he left McCracken and he went with Garcia. Joshua's problem is not physical, it's mental. And Robert Garcia alluded to that. He alluded to that. So, to me, if I'm Anthony Joshua and if I'm Derrick James, I'm listening to Robert Garcia and I'm going, yep, thank you very much. Yep, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to remodels. Yeah, now I'm going to do this. Yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I don't know how far gone Anthony Joshua is. Brother, and I say this to you out of love, I've said a lot of critical things about you in the past because I believe you could have been a great heavyweight. I say could have been because I don't know how much you've got left. And I say that with all due respect because the damaging defeats to Usyk, the 2 damaging defeats to Usyk, the damaging defeat to Andy Ruiz, I could have told you before you fought Ruiz that you'd have got beat by Ruiz and how you would have got beat by Ruiz and exactly to the point of the left hook that caught you, that started your demise. Why didn't you fight Trevor Bryant? Promoter's ego in the way. You left Rob McCracken to join who? I mean, this is all in the past. But whoever was advising you on that journey up to this point needs to be cut off. Honestly, it needs to be cut off. And it's okay moving from England to America. That's fine. But it's not the movement of body that's the problem here. It's the movement of mind. You've been training in an amateur gym for how many years? You've been training with non-elite coaches for how many years? How many years? Don't tell me Rob McCracken is an elite coach. He might be an elite amateur coach and a good coach. He's not an elite coach. He's not an elite coach. He's a good coach. And he's not an elite heavyweight coach. You know, Derrick James has been a heavyweight. Let's not forget that, a heavyweight boxer. And technically what he teaches, look at the fighters he's taught. So I hope, and I pray that Derrick and him, and I hope that Anthony is there to be a student. I hope. Otherwise, he may as well just stay in England. I hope that he's able to take in instruction. When he doesn't understand something, him and Derrick can talk it out. Derrick is a wise man. And if he wants to copy people, I hope that he copies and he follows Derrick's way of life, because my concern is he's in America and he's going to want to follow the American way of life. He's going to roll to all the big shows and the big fights and maybe roll like Spence. Can't do that. Can't afford to do that. Because Spence and Charla has what he ain't got. A, they've both got star power. B, they're both, one's undisputed and one's close to being undisputed. 2 fighters in the pound for pound top 10. And Spence has already paid the price for being reckless with drink. And you've seen what's happened to him. Common lost his life, came back and done some great stuff. But I would want, if I'm in control of Anthony Joshua, he has a mind on his ass. Quite literally. You're not going to these clubs. You're not going to these bars. If you're going out, Derrick's taking you out. Derrick's like kind of father to you. And that's how my trainer was. Like, you know, you go to the toilet, he's there, but it doesn't look, Derrick, if you look at how Derrick is with Spence, I think from what I've gathered about Derrick, with all due respect, he seems, when you're in the gym, when you're in the office, this is what I do with you. You do your work here. Because clearly, Spence in the gym is excellent. Charlo in the gym is excellent. Spence getting drunk he's going to say, well, I'm not your dad. It's up to you. Don King used to have handlers. And I think for the former heavyweight champion of the world, if you're going to get back, a guy like Joshua needs handlers. He needs handlers. People are going to look after him. He's got a lot of misguided thoughts. And he can't take those misguided thoughts into Derrick James' gym. I hope that Derrick and him are able to sit down and have a real heart-to-heart and talk about things. And he's not there just to be to make up the numbers, if you understand what I'm saying. I really wish Anthony Joshua the very best with Derrick James. I know how great a trainer Derrick James is. Nobody can come and tell me any nonsense. I know how great Derrick James is. And I know people used to criticize me. Hey, he's always got James Bashir on the show. He's got Derrick James on. Yeah, I do. They're elite trainers. I've got elite trainers who do elite things. So who trained Usyk? Oh, James Bashir. Wasn't it the same James Bashir that was doing the pads and the mitts with Anthony Joshua when Joshua was in camp with Klitschko? At that point there, that's when Joshua should have signed up with Ali Bashir. He gets beat by a guy that was trained by Ali Bashir, Alexander Usyk. And now he's with Derrick James, another good friend of the show. Family. Can't even call him friends, family. What people are saying here, I'm all ears, says Gayle. Gayle, would you like to jump on the show? Would you like to jump on the show? How would you like to jump on the show, Gayle? I'd love to have you on the show. I can always send you a link and you can jump on. It's funny how a year ago, a heavyweight name came and asked to get trained by James, but has turned him down because he was busy. AJ comes in the picture. Now he's available. My guess money talks. No, I don't. It's just only that. Emmanuel Stewart. Let's remember Emmanuel Stewart was approached by another good friend of mine and went and sat right next to him in college, Audley Harrison. He was the Olympic gold medalist. Stewart wouldn't touch him with a barge pole. And why was that? Eddie Hearn isn't doing Joshua any favors right now. When has he ever done Joshua any favors? He's made Joshua look like, at times, like a complete idiot. I mean, he's like, Josh, you are in the best shape of your life now, aren't you? Josh, you're really up for this fight, aren't you? Well, no, I am up for the fight. I don't need you to give me dialogue on what to say. You are up for this fight, aren't you, Josh? You are up leading. I mean, I don't think Hearn does him any favors whatsoever. Doesn't. Ingram, pleasure seeing you, young man. We are happy to see you back. I don't know how back I am, my friend. Joshua should have relocated to Southern California, immersed himself in Garcia's camp. The anonymity here would have done him a world of good. Nothing to do but focus. Yeah, I get that, Gayle. But what I don't agree with is Robert Garcia being the man for the job. Robert Garcia could never be the man for the job. Simply because Robert Garcia, the only guy Robert Garcia trained his resume as a heavyweight was that journeyman heavyweight. And this is not the time. He's fighting for a return bout against Usyk. This is not the time to be like experimenting. James he's got a great resume, but he also was a heavyweight as well. Garcia was never a heavyweight, nowhere close to heavyweight. In training heavyweights is very different, as I'm sure James will testify, and Ali Bashir. Sure, Derrick James can help OJ, but it's his mental that worries me. The things that go wrong, he gives up. Derrick can't teach him. Also, I hope Derrick don't make him fight Fury or Wilder until next year. Right. You see how things work out. Is it actually confirmed then? Yes. It was confirmed when I told you that Joshua he'd set up camp and he's moving to Dallas, Texas. No, we knew then. James is taking on a challenge here. Joshua may be too damaged to repair back to 100%, but James will certainly do his best. I agree there. Totally agree. But the damage continues. The damage continues. You know where the damage continues? If you go back, remember when I was asking the question, who was Joshua sparring to prepare for Usyk's first fight? Who was Joshua using to prepare for the second fight? Now, can you believe how stupid a move this was? His chief sparring partner Martin Bakole, was taken from under his nose to spar with Usyk. Do you know what Don King would have done? Don King would have said, you know what, Bakole, you're going nowhere. We'll pay you the double amount of money just to sit in camp with Joshua. You do not work with Alexander Usyk. But Bakole was being used. Bakole's got faster hands than Joshua. Bakole's got a better chin than Joshua. Joshua probably got better boxing ability. But he was using Bakole to prepare for Joshua. Who was Joshua preparing with? What's his name again? Was it McLean? McLean. The guy that they're going to use. The guy they're going to use now as the comeback. Who's talking all brave stuff. He's talking all the Braveheart stuff. I'm coming back. I'm coming to fight. I'm going to knock Joshua out. We didn't know who he was. He's unbeaten. Nobody knew who he was as a sparring partner. And why is anyone going to care if Joshua hits him and knocks him over in 2 rounds? This guy's not beating Joshua. He's a sparring partner fan for Joshua. Sorry, not happening. Not happening. So he's the rumored guy that Joshua's going to come back against. It proves nothing. Proves nothing. So the 3-fight deal. The first fight, he gets in a ring, hops over the ropes, he bangs a guy in 2 rounds. What does that prove? Well, he can punch at a certain level. Okay. So Derrick's going to work on some new things with him. Sure. I just hope how damaged is Joshua? I don't know. And Gayle makes a great point. Remember, the state of Anthony Joshua's mind. And I keep bringing this up over and over and over again. And people are still not getting this. When Joshua was preparing to fight Andy Ruiz, the sports writer came out, one of the sports writers. I don't know who it was, Gayle. If you can find out who that was, I would really love to connect with that person. That reporter asked about Joshua and the sports psychologist. And he asked, is it true that Anthony Joshua has seen a sports psychologist because he believes that he's scared of getting knocked out by Andy Ruiz? That was when he was an unbeaten fighter. He was having fears about Ruiz then. And there's still people out there who can pull up a straight face on YouTube and say, Deontay Wilder, you're scared of getting knocked out by Andy Ruiz, but you're talking brave about Deontay Wilder. I mean, that don't add up to me at all. And I will say this much. When you are that unsure when you're unsure of yourself, it's because of a lack of knowledge. And the lack of knowledge is because the fountain you're going to doesn't have the knowledge to give to you. Joshua's problem is not because there's a mental issue there, but the mental issue there is because he's not been taught by the right teachers. Now he's going to get taught by a teacher. It's not a job that Shane McGuigan can do. Shane McGuigan's work with Dan Dubois, no progress. It's not a job that Robert Garcia can do. No. But Derrick James has that chance of being that father-like figure. I just wonder if 3 things. Can Derrick get into the psyche of Anthony Joshua and replace his fears with newfound knowledge? That's the thing. If he's scared of getting hit and getting hurt, then can James make Joshua understand when to punch, when not to punch, when to engage, when to disengage? And his mentality that he doesn't get intimidated by smaller guys or intimidated. If he's getting intimidated by Usyk, getting intimidated by Ruiz, and getting supposedly knocked out and sparring by Joey Ueko, if those stuff is happening, I mean, who is leaking this information in the first place? That's what I want to know. I heard Joshua used Moses, the guy that Frank Warren also signed also. Listen, Joshua even went No word of lie. This is the truth. Go back and look at my interview with Stacey McKinley. He was asking one of the Durrell brothers, the Southpaw, he was asking him how to fight a Southpaw when he's preparing to fight Alexander Usyk. Think about that. That is how, those are the stories I heard. That is how empty the well of knowledge was. And I just hope that he's able to. So that barrier, that he can pass the information on. And what is Joshua's motivation? The long-held belief that what happens in sparring stays in sparring seems to be eroding quickly. No, what happens in sparring stays in sparring, depending on who you're connected to. I hope he stops traveling with this 20-man crew everywhere just to focus on his game. The way you will know if Anthony Joshua has changed is when they're interviewing him and he doesn't come out with any rubbish about, we had to switch some things up, and I'm the boss, I'm the CEO, all that garbage. Cut that crap out. Derrick is my trainer, he is my lead, and I listen to him. If we're going left, I'm listening to Derrick. If we're going right, I'm listening to Derrick. He's a proven trainer. I've made many mistakes along the way, thinking I knew all, but now I'm submitting myself because I don't know all. And half the problems in my career is because of me. If he can come out and say that in an interview, I know he's changed. But if he comes out with the rubbish of, we had to have my team, I made some changes, because, and he comes out that any rubbish talk, any nonsense talk, you know what I'm talking about. Any off-key talk. So the first time he does any interview, I want to hear a new mindset. Because any of the off-key talk he comes out with, Joshua comes out with some off-key talk. I'm not a man that makes excuses. Then after the Usyk fight, I couldn't see out my eye. What? I thought you said you were a man that didn't make excuses. Next thing, turns around and says to us, see, forget about the sweet science of boxing. Next interview, man, listen, I love the sweet science of boxing, man. Stuff I'm learning. What? So either do you love the sweet science of boxing or don't you love the sweet science of boxing? It's a bit confusing. Yeah, you know what? I'm a calculated man. I make my own decisions. Okay, right. Next thing, these coaches are rubbish, man. They're useless coaches. Well, you are the boss. You employed them. So you selected them. You said that this was the best team. I could tell you, Stevie Wonder could have told you they weren't the best team to have around you. You had James Ali Bashir in your camp. James Ali Bashir. And you dismissed him. And then you got a good whooping because of it. And I didn't feel sorry for you. Because, Bash talks too much. Bash talks too much. That's what I heard. Bash talks too much. Bash talks too much, but your promoter don't talk too much. Every time you hear your promoter open his mouth, he's exposing you all the time. And make you... How can a man come out, your promoter who's promoting you, how can he come out and start telling the world that when you were in the dressing room preparing to fight Usyk and you're looking at those notes? And you know why I believe that story? It's because Robert Garcia said the same thing. Robert Garcia said, often I'd give Anthony Joshua notes that he could go back and Joshua would look through the notes. So he's talking about Joshua, Garcia's talking about Joshua and notes. And when Garcia was training him before the second Usyk fight, he was talking about Joshua's got mental problems. I mean, what the hell is that? You guys signed off on that guy. You guys signed off on him. And you signed off on Adrian Fernandez as well. Bunch of chances. Gayle, tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm talking rubbish. If Deontay Wilder and Joshua both got elite trainers, I don't consider Malik Scott elite. I consider Malik Scott learning on the job. Elite trainers, although I will say this, Malik Scott has the way, or he has started to unlock the way to beat Tyson Fury. That double jab to the chest that pushes Tyson Fury back, we'll come back to that at some stage later on. 2 elite trainers. Where would the careers of Joshua and Wilder be today? Stevie Wonder reference. We got to use Stevie Wonder and Rail Charles. Not gonna lie, I have seen AJ write notes on his own fight against Ruiz 2 in his own channel. I thought it was sad. As long as Spence not his chauffeur, he'll be fine out there. And that. No, but you see, this is where Bwtm Sports warned Joshua of his channel, stay away from Miami. So what I heard, stories I was hearing, don't know if it's true or not, but he was a bit of a ladies' man out in Miami. If that's the case, then all that, I'm the landlord, one of the boys, trying to make an impression, I'm a big man, blah, 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 blah. If he's one of them guys that are impressionable, then I'm sorry, he's wasting his time in Dallas. Wasting his time. Because if he takes that mindset across to Texas, he's finished. The only thing that will be left for Anthony Joshua's career, if he takes that fake gangster lifestyle into Texas, the only thing that's going to happen to Anthony Joshua, he'll be looking up the lights. That's all it is. He'll get knocked out on the canvas and have to get picked off the canvas. I'm telling you. So I hope to God that he's making the right decisions. Oh, yeah, there's a ton of truth here. There you go. That's what I'm saying. Like, Derrick James is not Jesus Christ. People think that Derrick James is going to touch Joshua. He's going to touch Joshua, and then Joshua's suddenly going to become this super fighter. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Jesus Christ himself would first of all touch Joshua and tell him, hey, you got to believe, son. So even Jesus will be telling him off. So, Ingram, both Wilder and Joshua came to boxing relatively late with minimal amateur experience. In my honest opinion, there's only so much a trainer can do with this. Okay. Okay. Let me throw this back at you, Gayle. There's only so much a trainer can do. Well, Wilder became heavyweight champion of the world, and Joshua became unified heavyweight champion of the world. Not many people go on to do both things there. Wilder had 9 defenses of the WBC title, or 10, and Joshua had a few defenses of his unified championship, beating one Hall of Famer on the way, in Klitschko. The thing is this, if they can achieve those things, Gayle, with bang average trainers, what could they do with an elite trainer, Gayle? That's the question I'm asking you. But Wilder is making up group because he's humbleness of applying himself as Scott. He has utmost belief in Scott. Yeah, I get that. Making up ground, I meant to say, yes. I think that AJ can have great performance with Derrick James. I do believe so too. Derrick James probably believes he can do a great job with Anthony Joshua. But does Anthony Joshua believe Anthony Joshua can do a great job? Can do a great job. Does Anthony Joshua himself believe that? Bring Gayle on the show. I want Gayle to come on the show, but it's up to Gayle, isn't it? Gayle, if you want to come on the show, I will send you a link straight away. Wilder and Joshua were fortunate to rise in an era between Klitschko, Fury, and Usyk. Well, Gayle, I could counter you that and say, well, Mike Tyson was fortunate to be in an era with poor heavyweights. Let's be honest. The crop of heavyweights that were around when Mike was around, no disrespect, Bone Crusher Smith, Tim Witherspoon, no, they were good heavyweights. But, I mean, I guess every era had, apart from when you talk about Muhammad Ali, but again, you had that era where you had Lewis, Bowl, Holyfield, Foreman, Tyson, and then Tyson went to prison. So I don't know. He had a good little run. He's fighting bum of the week, and then he fought Berbick, who, his claim to fame was that beating Muhammad Ali, a faded past Ali. Spinks was beaten before he even did a press conference with Mike. So who else? Bonkers with Pinkland Thomas. I mean, Mike was great, but the opposition wasn't that great. Gayle said, sure. Did she say, where did she say sure? I didn't see that. Where did she say that? Did she say sure? Where did Gayle say sure? Stevie Wonder reference? Sure. She said sure, she'll come on the show. Okay, Gayle. Got to get Gayle on the show. Right, Gayle. How are we going to do this? How are we going to send this to you? Right, let me send you a link here, Gayle. Just hope this works. I hope this email still works for you. Now, let me send this to you. Right. I've just sent a link to you, Gayle, via your email address. So see if that comes up. If not, I'll just send the link here. Thanks, Michael, for that. I didn't see that. So, Gayle, if you come on, that'd be great. So, and the other thing is, I want to know how Derrick James is going to manage Spence, Martin. He's got some big fights. You've got Spence is going to be fighting Thurman. That's a big fight. You're going to have Charlo versus Zoo. Martin's just come off a great win. And then you got Joshua. So where's the time for that? Did you get the email, Gayle? I hope you did. She there? Dale, you there? I don't know if Gayle is in there. She probably is. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on the Derrick James and Joshua partnership? Do you think Joshua could be disciplined enough to just be in camp and train? He's moved to America. And I haven't seen it yet. If you want to paste it here, feel free. I will do. I'm going to paste it now. Hold on. There you go. I've just posted it. Where are you? Are you on the YouTube channel? There you go, Gayle. It's there. Click on it and come through. It'd be great to have you on the show. Oh, there she is. Right. Gayle.
My friend, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. Happy New Year. Let me come out of this. Let me bring this up.
Happy New Year to you.
Oh, bro.
My dogs are very excited about this. I hope I do not shock one of your viewers who said bring him on. Bring him on. Oh my. Here's a surprise for you.
So how have you been, my friend?
I've been very good. We have missed your presence. Welcome back.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I hope you have at it. There's a lot to talk about this year. A lot to talk about. Oh, if we do not have more key fights canceled after we had Charlo Zhu fall out, Ortiz Stanionis fall out, which we are extremely interested in here. Boy, what was the third one that got delayed? I don't even want to tempt fate by talking about
Spence Crawford.
Oh, well, I don't even consider that ever on the books. I will say, at the risk of hijacking your discussion,
yes,
I am intrigued by Errol Spence's approach to this fight.
Oh, with Keith Thurman.
I have been saying, not entirely as a joke, for months, that by the time we see Spence Crawford, they're going to have to do it at 154. Well, here we have Mr. Spence testing the waters against Keith Thurman at 154. Brilliant move. He gets to do a dress rehearsal, see how he feels. He gets to have this fight with no risk to his belts at 147. And I predict right now, here on Bwtm Sports, that it's going to go well. Keith Thurman will give a good effort. He always does, but he won't prevail. And then Errol Spence turns around to Bud Crawford and says, son, you want me? Come up here and get me at 154. He and Crawford have always had a collegial relationship, considering the trajectory they're on, this collision course, until this latest meltdown with Crawford bailing out and going his own direction. And speaking about it in blunt terms, somebody should have counseled Mr. Crawford to keep his mouth shut.
Shut.
Yeah.
I said that. Keep your mouth shut.
Absolutely.
No favors.
Keep your complaints to yourself, son. It did him no good. I watched it in horrified fascination the night he went live. And so Spence is ticked, and Spence is going to make him pay for it. Spence will make him pay for it, because Crawford needs Spence more than Spence needs Crawford, particularly if he does move up to 154 and starts ticking off victories against well-known names.
Well, I spoke to Derrick a while ago regarding Crawford and Spence. The big holdup in this fight is two things. First of all, level of opposition, one, and two, gate sales. I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, what does Crawford bring to the table in terms of gate sales?
All he provides is the friction against which Spence needs to perform. That's really it. He sells beautifully in his home state of Nebraska.
Yeah. Outside of that,
not as much. He'll get a bit of a bump in Texas, but he will not get that bump on the coasts or in Las Vegas.
All right, well, and that's his own fault, because
it is his fault.
It's his fault because he's not. I don't think he's media friendly, and now he's had to force himself to become media friendly because it's been hurting his career. And I've got no sympathy for him. He's not media friendly,
but he also wants to do it on his own terms. And it's sad to me, because part of his reputation with media is earned because he doesn't suffer fools.
Yeah.
And let's face it, much of the boxing media scene these days
Are idiots.
Are idiots who have no history, no work ethic. And part of it is the environment they're forced to work in. They are video jockeys working for clicks. That doesn't generate any positive information or substantive information.
I will say this. I have no sympathy for people like Crawford, because when they get good journalism, and people who look after their careers and want to look after them and put them in a good light and ask them good quality questions, they put them to the wayside and listen to stupid PR people. Listen, I will tell you this much. There are some, no disrespect to yourself, because I think you do a great job, but there's some real idiots in PR that may do great in other sports and may come from other backgrounds, but not boxing. You need to be able to keep your fighter in touch with the communities, in touch. You don't push them away because they may be becoming big brands within in the PR state and their ideas, but the brand, where they came from, where they grew up from, you take them away from that, and then you isolate that fighter. And then when the fighter loses a fight, or you want to get to rally the fighters like public persona, you want to rally their troops, you've isolated their troops because you said, oh no, you're too big now, you can't talk to that person, you're too big now, you can't talk to this person, you're too big now. I remember Keith Thurman. Listen, Keith used to ring me up my phone before, and that's when he was world champion. Ring my phone and say, hey bro, when are we going to do an interview, blah blah blah. Now as soon as he gets a PR in, I've got a PR now, you're going to have to wait in the queue. I said, who? Waiting what? I said, when nobody knew you, I was talking to you. You became world champion, I was still talking to you. Now you get a PR in, you don't want to talk to me because you're big Keith Thurman now. That hasn't worked out well. Even if Crawford, it doesn't work out well. These guys need to be able to build their brand and keep with their people. Those people who build their brand and keep with their people and don't allow these PRs to get in and start pulling them away from their brands for who they are and grow with them, they're the ones I see more successful.
Well, here's the problem. Unfortunately, my profession requires no licensing and no formal resume. Anybody can claim to be a publicist. A publicist is not a strategic communications consultant. They need somebody thoughtful. They need somebody also to willing to dish out a little tough love and say, mister, here's how it goes. And it's not always on your terms.
Absolutely.
But they do need to reward people who are willing to thoughtfully, respectfully put challenging questions to athletes. I've had no problem with Bud Crawford when I've been able to stand in front of him in a gym at a media workout. He's meeting with a limited group of folks. He is surprisingly forthcoming and very polite when he feels he's dealing with somebody on what he considers his intelligence level. He isn't answering the same ridiculous question
over and over again.
And I will recommend to anyone listening here, if they're interested in a follow-up, go listen to the episode of Sean Porter's podcast, which is called The Porter Way. It's probably 4, 5, 6, 8 weeks ago, maybe if it's been longer, time flies. Look up the episode where Porter interviews Bud Crawford, and you will hear a different Bud Crawford than you know, and you will hear the man, Bud Crawford, because with Porter, he respects Porter, and he relaxes with Porter, and that is the Crawford that needs to be brought out. Now, he is never going to be flashy, trashy, soundbite machine Bud Crawford. He's never going to be Tyson Fury.
No.
He doesn't need to be. He needs to be in a situation where he can comfortably express himself. And a good counselor working with him on how to maximize his communication talents will tailor those opportunities to him. They don't use a blunt force instrument, putting him in front of these provocative anything for clickbait video jockeys. That's unfortunate. And there are fighters who thrive in that environment. And that's great. And that is how a lot of information gets out there. But there are other ways to do it that the Crawford camp can control if they're thoughtful. But it means tailoring the approach to the individual. And I didn't mean to go down that rat hole, but
no. I'm glad you, because I was fortunate. You know, I did two 15-minute interviews with Bud Crawford. I did the first interview I did with him was just after he moved up to beat the guy that knocked Khan out. The Colombian, or the guy that knocked Khan out. I can't remember his name out. The first guy knocked Khan out.
I would ask a irreverent question about, well, gosh, I have to sift through all the guys that knocked Amir Khan out.
No, it was the first guy. It was the first guy that knocked Amir Khan out. Breedis
Prescott. Yes,
Prescott. Yeah. So after
who gave Crawford a challenge.
Yeah.
You know, relatively speaking, Breedis had a pretty good performance.
That was the first time I interviewed Bud, and I spoke to him for 15 minutes then. And then I did the second follow-up interview with him just before he was going to fight Ricky Burns and became WBO champion. I told everyone, this guy's going to come. This guy's going to beat him up. Yeah.
Early in his career. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I get most of them. Hit Crawford, Thurman, Usyk, all them guys. You see them have gone on to be champions or undisputed champions or unified champions early. That's the way. You know,
well, my goodness, he fought Prescott in 2013, 10 years ago.
10
years ago, Ingram, 10 years ago. Amazing.
I know. That was when I think that was when I was on the circuit.
10-round fight.
Yeah, back in the day. So happy about it. So So Crawford is he is like Tyson Fury in terms of their boxing knowledge. He's very deep in his boxing knowledge. A historian. We understand. Yeah, he was explaining to me how he understood the sport of boxing, where he felt his place was in boxing, truly believed in his own ability, just like Tyson Fury, believed in his own ability well before he was put in a position to really show what he could really do. So credit to Crawford for what he's done with his career. Absolutely. But again, I think he's been poorly advised in terms of how he goes about, especially this situation with Al Heyman and this last,
without a doubt,
whatever that, all that stuff. I thought that was bad.
Let us look at how Mr. Heyman conducts his public relations, which is to say, there are none.
Nothing.
There are none.
Or you could go quite opposite. You could say that you could put Al Heyman in one room and you could put Eddie Hearn in another room.
Oh my Lord. And who's to say which one of them, with these polar opposite approaches, are gaining more ground? I'm not sure either one of them would be ahead of the other.
Well, at least one is not talking about world domination. I mean, I remember Eddie Hearn said he's going to come to America. He's going to dominate America. Do you remember he said he's going to dominate America? And the Americans are like, no, it's not.
It is hard to keep up with Mr. Hearn. I will give him this. He can be entertaining when he feels like being charming. He can be very charming. But some of the things he says, I sit with my thoughts and think, does he really believe this? Or is he just playing with us? There is no way he could possibly believe some of the stuff he told me.
He told me he's a second-hand car salesman. I think in the first 30 seconds I went to interview him.
Well, there is a ruthlessly accurate self-assessment. Good for him. and let's face it, boxing has been full of them, and God bless him, Don King is the prototype, and that man is still churning at age 91, which is
he still is.
In itself.
Let me ask you a question. What is your take on Conor Benn?
Oh boy, that young man couldn't have dug a deeper hole for himself.
Did you hear?
Is looking way up at the sunlight above him. I'm not sure he'll reach it.
did you hear? Well, I heard that if it's true, but he failed the test and he had the fertility stuff in his system because he was having sexual relations with his wife and ingested the stuff. That's how he was able to have the fertility stuff in his body. That's why he failed the PED test.
I think Mr. Benn needs to consider a new career in writing fantasy novels because he's endlessly creative. I will give him that. Seriously,
is it possible though? Is it possible?
I am not a medical professional. Full disclosure, I would have no effing idea whether that's true or not. It sounds wildly implausible. And however, let's for 1 second play along and say it's true. And why didn't we hear this several months ago when it happened?
Yeah, well, it's not something your wife comes out and says, is it? Oh, well, you know, I was on the pill really, and we were having sexual relations, and my husband ingested.
Yeah, if she was, this is all rubbish. We know it. He, like several others, needs to keep his mouth shut, humble himself.
But if he kept his mouth shut, he wouldn't have ingested it.
Touche. Here's what Mr. Benn needs to do. Mr. Benn, I charge people a lot of money for this kind of advice. You're welcome to it. Just remember what you paid for it. He needs to humble himself and reposition himself as a rehab project. Human beings love a comeback story. They love seeing somebody toppled to the absolute bottom and crawling their way back. Mr. Benn, you need to get good scrapes on your hands and knees right now and crawl back into the good graces of the public. I do think he can do it, but it isn't going to happen overnight. And he really needs to eat dirt and own this and discuss the lessons learned. And who knows, he could potentially turn around to be the greatest crusader against illegal drugs in combat sports we've ever seen. I won't hold my breath, but it wouldn't be the worst thing for him to do, to say lessons learned. You know, I ruined my career over this. I'm going to try to rebuild it. You know, you don't have to listen to me talk the talk. You can watch me walk the walk. Test himself, publish the results, open, transparent, and possibly the public will give him a second chance. People are very generous with second chances, astonishingly so. But they're going to require him to radically change his approach and attitude. No more of the excuses. None. No more. We're not hearing it.
But hold on. Because I'm sorry, but at least in the UK, boxing seems so scripted today. I think that this is all building to Eubank versus Benn, and this time Benn being the bad guy and Eubank being the good guy, and everyone wants to see Benn get plastered because of what he did try to do to Eubank the first time round. So when they do the press conferences at £160, it's going to be doubly a bigger fight than it was as first advertised. As it seems very scripted in the UK.
That's an interesting observation. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that it could be even a bigger attraction. He will certainly end up having his role repositioned, that's for sure. But if I am the Eubank camp, I want a lot of assurances and a lot of monitoring to even think about letting that fight go forward. That's going to be the barrier published, I think.
Do you think his performances, like what's his name, Chris Van Heerderen was saying, how the way he got knocked out, he says he's been hit by Spence, and that's never happened. He said, thinking about it now, could could Ben have been on PEDs to be able to hit so hard?
Oh,
And yet early in his career, he wasn't hitting like that.
mm-hmm. I would recommend also to you and your listeners to catch some interviews right after the news broke with Chris Algieri.
Yeah.
Chris Algieri is in a unique position to comment on this because he is a master's degree level college educated professional nutritionist in the United States, in addition to having been clocked by Conor Benn, and says now he had no proof to offer, but knew, absolutely knew he was juiced in the fight with Algieri. And Algieri talks about taking shots from him and with knowing without a doubt, he wasn't a clean fighter. But for his own, he was under his own pressures at the time without that proof to go forward with the fight. And it was a devastating loss. He looked terrible. He is very bitter about it. He's bitter that Ben wasn't caught before his fight because, he was the one, that got punished for what happened. He's the real loser here. He wishes that somebody had caught on to Ben long before, but at least was glad it had finally happened.
Why is it only the fighter that gets punished? Why isn't it the fighter and the team that get punished? The fighter, the trainer,
absolutely,
the manager, the promoter.
Well, and the sanctioning organizations. There are a lot of ways to really make these penalties stick, but it isn't in their best interest, because when these guys who can generate, as you just said, a massive amount of revenue, they are damaging their own income. And it is very difficult for anyone, even the most ethical, to realize by standing up for what's right, you are going to have to be this. You are going to participate in the sacrifice, in the damage. The damage is the loss of income and the ripple effects from that. You think about the Ben Eubank fight not being staged and how much revenue is lost, not just ticket sales, but all of the vendors, the jobs, the people who work at the venue, security,
Absolutely.
the person printing, the graphic designer making the posters, the printer printing the programs, the person screening the merch. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And it is very hard to say we are going to stand up for these principles instead of looking the other way, as long as everyone is complicit. There is an argument to be made, and this is a whole other show, but there is an argument to be made that, do you keep trying to play whack-a-mole and catching it where you can and doing your best with the limited funds, attention, and will that we have? Or do you just say, F it, everyone do what you want? Just go ahead.
I said this about 5 years ago.
Well,
and people said, no.
Still a discussion worth having, because
exactly
there's more motivation and will in trying to beat the tests than there is trying to develop the tests to catch up. There's no money in that. The money benefit is in getting around them, and they're always going to be out ahead. And it is very hard in many cases to prove a negative when they're able to get around it. You have those handful of fighters who we know to be clean, who have banged the drum for years about fighting clean. Nonito Donaire being the very first and still to be clean and tested 365 days a year, around the clock, funds it himself. But there's very little money in writing this kind of monitoring. There just isn't. So we have these shocking cases that come up after the fact. And it's not just in boxing, it's everywhere. Athletic competition is too lucrative at so many levels. I get it. I understand why they try it. Because the risk reward ratio is so off balance. There's so much reward possible.
Let me throw this in as well. Transgender boxing.
Messy. I would like to figure out a way to provide an even playing field for any athlete to participate. But this is new turf for a lot of us. And I want it to work and be fair, but I'm not sure how we go about that. I hope better minds, smarter minds, more compassionate minds than mine address this. Because you do have a subset of the population shut out. But we can't throw open the doors and make it unfair to other athletes as a result. And the case that really comes to my mind, and I have enormous sympathy for everybody involved on all sides, was the fight, and I got to look up the opponent's name while we're doing this, and I'm going to do it right now. But when you do have a fight between
Riker?
No,
Riker fought a man. Riker fought a man.
Did she? Oh, interesting. No, it's a more recent case. Here we go. I am thinking of American super heavyweight or super middleweight champion Franchon Cruz DeZern. Franchon Cruz DeZern in at the very beginning of 2020, right before the pandemic, fought a Mexican fighter named Alejandra Jimenez. Alejandra Jimenez. We all knew Jimenez was naturally bigger than Franchon, but it was alarming to see Jimenez standing there against Franchon, who is not exactly, she is a powerhouse of a woman.
She is.
And she lost a controversial unanimous decision to Jimenez, which was later changed to a no decision. The fight took place in San Antonio, Texas. Jimenez gender status is never been locked down, but it was most certainly in question whether or not she had ever competed as a male athlete or was in fact biologically a male athlete at the time of that fight.
Wow. Hey, maybe go watch the fight.
Yeah, go watch it. Funny enough, January 11th. January 11th.
No.
Yes, 2020, 3 years ago today. 3 years ago today. Isn't that interesting? Yes, go look back at that 10-round fight, championship fight for both the WBC and WBO World Super Middleweight Women's titles.
Definitely watch that.
This was Franchon's first defense of this belt. Devastating loss, as you might imagine. Later ruled a no contest, no decision because of the controversy over Jimenez's gender status. And there's a big difference between gender identity psychologically and gender status physically. But how do we how do our medical professionals and our scientists quantify that? It's not an absolute. It is a sliding scale. It's fluid. It's not defined. It's not black and white. So where does the boundary lie? That's a tough call. It is a tough call. I get that.
If you have a transgender fighter that's at heavyweight and says, you know what, I want to fight that heavyweight. I want to go and fight Tyson Fury. I want to fight Tyson Fury because it's my right to be able to fight Tyson Fury. And I shouldn't be considered transgender. I should just be considered a human being, and I want to fight Tyson Fury because I feel I can beat Tyson Fury. What happens then?
Well, let me ask you, where are we going to find a woman who's 6'2" or 3 plus and over 200 pounds? Really? You know, who is transgender? I'm not saying that it's not impossible. I think it's rather unlikely to happen. But I don't think the dog agrees. I do have greater concerns where it becomes fuzzier at the lower weight divisions in particular, where it's just biologically more likely to happen. But boy, I am in no way qualified to render any sort of judgment here, other than I would like smarter, more educated minds on this and medical science to weigh in and say, here's what needs to be considered and here's what needs to happen to provide this opportunity. I do think, part of the problem with women's boxing over the last, until recently, in gaining, the status with fans and in the sport that it does now, was simply the lack of competitors. The talent pool was just not very deep. That is changing. That is changing as culture changes, as opportunities change. And as the marketplace changes, people are interested. You can argue the fight of the year last year was Taylor Serrano, gender aside. I certainly make that case. But you're going to start again with this very, very limited talent pool. And that's going to be a challenge, but doesn't mean we shouldn't try. This is a fascinating comment I see. What if Claressa Shields demands a fight with Bivol? But here we're talking about mixed gender competition.
A woman that was born a man, identifying as a woman.
Well,
am I correct there?
Shields is certainly not a woman born as a man. We're talking about a woman identifying and competing as a woman. No, she's talking about this is a I hate to say cross gender. That's a mixed gender fight. A woman of similar division size as a man, same height, same weight. Here's a problem. And there is going to be a biologically recognized issue with muscle mass with women and men. Now, if both parties agreed outside, I think you have a problem with it being outside the sanctioning organizations. But if both parties agreed and wanted to go for it and there were no other barriers, it was fair on a sporting level. It was an even playing field. I don't object to it. I do think there are a lot of men, for a lot of cultural and psychological reasons, would have a whole lot of problem punching a woman in the face.
Yeah.
And knowing Dimitri Bivol, and I do, I think that would be very psychologically challenging for him.
He wouldn't even get himself involved in that.
I absolutely do not think he would. There are some men that might, but
boy, you name a few of them.
If you want to put an event, a public event, at the head of the line of triggering world episodes, this would be it. I don't think that's a barrier we're going to cross.
Well, hold on.
Our generation's lifetime, anyway.
But Riker fought a man, and she was one of the most dangerous punchers of women in women's boxing.
Yes, but women's professional boxing, even then, was considered a stunt, an anomaly. I mean, it has certainly achieved a very different status today for those of us old enough to have been around back in the day. It was still a bit of a circus sideshow. No disrespect to the women of that era, Lucia, Christy Martin, all of their peers. But it's a very different, much more seriously accepted case today. When you
How
see,
would Riker do?
when you see a technician like Katie Taylor or punchers like Amanda Serrano and I would add Sinisa Estrada, they, for their weight, punch just as skillfully and as hard as any man. They really do. Taylor is just as crafty and talented with her ring generalship, her footwork, and her punch placement as any man. But there are realities of biology that are present, and those are never going to change.
I agree with that.
Never going to change.
Can I hear your final thoughts on Derrick James and Anthony Joshua, in your opinion?
Anthony Joshua seems to be looking for an answer to a problem externally when the problem is
internally.
Internal. It's his to fix, not a trainer's to fix. He, for whatever reason, has some mental block about pulling the trigger. And I don't think it was a bad idea for him to work with somebody who's a admittedly offense forward, offense first trainer like Garcia, which is not atypical of a lot of Mexican style, if you will, trainers. That's the style that they are steeped in, that works. Look what he's done with somebody like Bam Rodriguez and his brother Joshua Franco. And interestingly enough, as the younger brother Rodriguez has risen, Franco has been smart enough to look over and take a page out of his younger brother's book and apply it to his own fights, which should have won him the fight in Japan against Taeko, which, you know, there's a bit of home cooking there. We're going to see a rematch, I'm sure. So a trainer at this point is not going to fundamentally change Anthony Joshua. I think he's just too baked in at this point. But would he change his approach and his mindset? Not the tools that he has, but the way he uses the tools. I think he could have, but Joshua needed to be fully bought in and committed, and I don't think he was. So what can Derrick James do? Not a lot. But can he help Joshua somehow rebuild his confidence? Maybe. We'll see. The gym environment will be important. It's not a bad thing if he is in Texas, stays in Texas, steeps himself in that atmosphere and that community of people. For Pete's sake, keep your mouth shut about what goes on in training. Lay low. Give yourself some breathing room. Step out of the scene for a little while. Let some of your brothers and sisters move to the forefront and carry things on for a while while you're getting some work done. You know, give yourself some breathing room. He deserves that. He still has nothing to be ashamed about as far as his career goes. He has done he's done amazing things with the opportunities and the tools he's been given. You know, truly, back in the beginning, I don't think anyone would have expected him to rise the way he did.
Right.
That's what makes the fall so difficult to see. Can he resurrect himself? We'll see. I'll tell you what, though, from your friends over here in the United States, we have an enormous eagerness to see, at whatever level, Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, who for many reasons find themselves on parallel tracks, very close together. The difference is that Wilder has humbled himself. Wilder has thrown away what's happened before and started rebuilding himself, and it is working. It is working. I agree with you that Malik Scott isn't exactly an elite level trainer, but he he has turned out to be the right trainer for Anthony
Yes.
Joshua because Wilder has full faith and belief in Scott. So it doesn't matter what we think. It doesn't
Hold
matter
on.
at all.
Let me hold you right there. Did you know that Wilder and Malik Scott were in the same camp together as Joshua at the time?
Interesting.
They were all in the same. They were all in the same camp. They were all in the same camp preparing with Klitschko.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. You know,
Joshua.
it's a small community. Let's face it. They all know each other. Yeah,
exactly. Joshua was James Bashir was work of Joshua doing the pads for him when he was assistant trainer for Klitschko. Wilder was getting knocked down and sparring by Klitschko. At that time, they had Joshua, Dillian White, Wilder, Richard Towers. Who else? Who else was in there? Oh, what's his name? Kevin Johnson. Is it Kevin Johnson? No, Banks. So the whole list of heavyweights.
Banks, who by the way is not officially retired. I ask him every time I see him. Hey, Jonathan, you retired? Never said I was. Never said I was. He probably is, but
he probably is. Yeah.
Still
so I think so it's no surprise that Wilder and Malik Scott would have got that bond and that connection. What confused me is how James Bashir was in camp with Joshua for a week and he still went to Malik Scott. No, still went to Malik Scott, Robert Garcia. To me, I still don't understand that.
I think he wanted a clean break, something radically different. I mean, that certainly is radically different.
He did get radically different. He got radically beat as well again.
Yeah, he did. He did. But I do think he properly assessed that his hesitation in being moving forward in an offense-minded way was hurting him. You know, his reluctance to leverage that kind of offense, and assumed that somebody who could school him in that Mexican style, no holds barred, bang it out, would help him. But it was just, it was a horrible fit. That's never going to happen at the level he is now and the experience that he is.
No chance.
But I understand the flawed. I do understand the rationale behind the thinking, as flawed as it was.
That would work for Joe Joyce.
That
would work for Joyce.
It might. But I'm not sure Joe Joyce, to his credit, needs any help. And
he doesn't.
Talk about somebody exceeding expectations. Bravo to him. Bravo to him. He still gets hit way too much for my liking. But, you know, it hasn't stopped him so far. And I'm fascinated to see where this goes. It's an interesting heavyweight era. We are just about to turn the page on the next generation. We're just sort of coming to the end of the cycle here, which will be, I believe, finished off once we see Fury and Usyk's combat play out, however it does, whether it's one fight or more than one fight. I, however, think Usyk is close to being done. I think he is a man with a very rich, full life, well-rounded individual. It's not completely about boxing for him. And should he prevail over Fury, and I think he can,
retires.
He'll be done.
Yeah, I think so.
And he has said that. He has said he will walk away.
I said it on show. I said that if he beats Fury, he retires. That's it.
Oh, I think so.
It would be funny if he did retire and leave Fury out in the cold and retired. It'd be like what Fury did to Klitschko. But ironic, wouldn't it?
Yes. Yes. Very, quite right. Isn't that?
And another Ukrainian too as well.
Those Ukrainians, man, they're tough bastards. What can we say? And smart to boot. That is a dangerous combination.
Absolutely. Gayle, as always, thank you so much. How can people find out where you are and listen to you?
Well, you'll see I am now writing and have been for some time for the Operation NYFights.com, nyfights.com.
Okay.
You'll see my work there. I am the West Coast office, if you will, working out of Southern California for NY Fights, but we have our talents all over the United States and the UK, I might add. And it is covering boxing and other combat sports, but really boxing is still at the heart of what we do. And although don't lean closer, don't tell my boss I'm saying this. While New York is arguably not the center of the boxing universe anymore, there is still plenty of New York attitude at New York Fights, which is
fantastic.
A lot of
fantastic. Tell you what, Gayle, if you have any fighters that you want to throw my way for interviews, let me know.
I will do that, sir. There's a few here in Southern California you might have interest in. I am one of those people who really loves the smaller weight divisions for the action and excitement. The big men are fun. I will be covering the Ajagba Stephen Shaw card this week.
Good fight.
Here in the United States, which is in upstate New York. But I do love the smaller athletes, you know.
What are we talking smaller? Are we talking welterweight? We're talking lightweight?
We're talking flyweight, super flyweight, bantamweight. That's it.
Okay.
122 and down. Give me
send them over. Send them over.
Super flies any day.
send them over to me, and we'll get them on Bwtm Sports. It'll be fun. I haven't done it in a long while. It'd be nice to start getting some fights.
Very good. Thank you so much for inviting me. And
it's a pleasure.
Jump on in. I am procrastinating my role work and enjoying it immensely.
It's great to have you on the show again, Gayle. Absolutely pleasure.
Good to have you back. Everyone listening, like, subscribe, hit that button. Come on.
Gayle, thank you so much. And to everyone else being on the show, listening in, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the show. Good evening, Denise Wards, by the way. And this is it from us.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. And keep going, keep your heads up, and stay focused in 2023. Big things are coming. Let us end the show.